Hey guys, this is Reiji, and today is the start of a new tutorial series that I will do, where I will explain how I paint certain specific things, such as this desk. And unfortunately, I have lost the footage because of a certain program, where I painted the whole thing, but I decided to re-record and repaint a part of it, and I hope that you might will understand how the rest is being painted by the small, like the upper plate that I will do now. And basically, I hope that you will be able to use the knowledge you gain from this tutorial to paint the rest. And if you have any questions, post them below in the comments. The Photoshop file will be available on my Patreon. And yeah, before we actually start painting, I wanted to show you how I did my sketch. I would really recommend using the pen tool for it because you are always able to edit your lines so you can get the proportion right, like I did right here. It's not really that easy to do a desk which is proportionally correct. It took me quite a while, and I would really also recommend using references, and maybe you could even trace something just to get it right the first time. So what I'm doing right now is actually make a selection for the upper plate. You can't really see the lines I'm doing right here, but it's actually there. I'm just making the edgy points right here. So I'm actually not just going to use a brush and paint it like this. Why I'm doing this is because so we have really clean and crisp edges. So it actually gets this kind of very legit look to it. I'm gonna select the color here real quick so it looks the same and fill the selection. So now we actually have the flat color. The next thing we're gonna do is make a new layer, right click and create a clipping mask. If you're not familiar with masks, then let me explain real quick that masks are being used for when you want to paint or draw in a certain area. So what I did now is basically make a mask for the upper plate that we just filled in. So we're only gonna draw in or on this certain plate. Before we continue, we have to make a short edits on our brush presets. And what we will need for this is the transfer. What this does is basically that when you change your brush pressure on your tablet, it will change the opacity. So when you put less pressure on the brush, it will also have less density. So this way, when I make these strokes that I do right now, they will get a lot more weaker and stronger depending on the pressure that I use on my pen right now. First of all, I don't really have a certain way I'm doing these strokes right here. They're basically done pretty much random. That's at least that's how I do them, and they pretty much turn out just right in the end somehow. Okay, so now is where the actual magic happens. We're going to choose motion blur for our filter and have to figure out where the actual angle of the plate is that we are painting right now. And you just have to try out which looks the best. Try out many differences, try out all the angles, and you'll eventually get it right. Now this looks actually pretty good, but I want to actually have more of these, so I'm just gonna add some more, and then add the filter back up again. Okay, now this looks a lot more like the rest of the desk. What we will do now is put the sketch layer back on so we can see where to put the shadow and the highlights. This time again, I will use the same method we used to actually fill the plate in. So I'm going to use the pen tool again, and we'll mark the edges as well. So for that we will make a new layer and the clipping mask again as well. Now I'm choosing the edges where the shadow layer will go, just like we filled in the first plate. Just gonna close the selection, make a selection, then I'll choose the black color and fill it in. Now this looks pretty extreme, so what we're gonna do is lower the opacity of the layer until we think it's gonna look right. And I think this looks pretty much okay. Now we will do the same thing for the other side, only that we're not going to add a shadow but a highlight. So we will again add a new layer, and do not forget to make it a clipping mask. Then choose the pen tool and select the partition you want to have highlighted. This time I chose a blue color because when you add the blending mode to color dodge, it will actually turn brighter and have a different effect rather than when you actually choose a normal brighter color. Okay, so before we get to the final step, I wanted to show you how I managed to distinct the drawers, or whatever you call this furniture piece, by simply adding a layer style called bevel and emboss, or emboss. You will have to check multiple settings to get it right, because it will always be different of what you have to do depending on the angle that your drawer or desk is actually being drawn in. So you actually have to change the angle, the size, and the depth, and possibly try out many different styles before you can get it right. It took me quite a while to get it right. But if you just experiment with the settings, I'm so sorry, I'm actually so bad at doing tutorials. I promise to get better with the next couple ones. Okay, here comes the final part. We will add the special effects. First we will make the background invisible and flatten frames into layers. What this does is basically that Photoshop will grab all the layers that you see or have visible at the point, that it will grab all of them together and make a picture from it. We will do that because we will now use the dodge tool to add a special lighting effect that you actually cannot really get that way if you don't have all the layers combined. It will be just really complicated to do. So make sure that your range is set to highlights when you want to actually make it brighter and have a certain special color effect that you will see in a minute. I would really recommend using the dodge tool every time you are painting a background, because it brings out a natural highlighting color and makes it look like the sun is shining on it. Make sure not to go overboard with it like I'm doing right here. It might look a little bit crazy, but yeah, you will know what to do when it starts to look really strange. Okay, here's the finished product. I hope this tutorial was some kind of help for you. Unfortunately, it kind of got out of control. I should better make a script for the next couple videos that I will make. Sorry about that. But yeah, the file will be available on my Patreon, just like the walkthrough video. Thanks for watching!